Hello, everybody, and welcome to Favorite Cricket on Favorite Sports for today's review as Pakistan beats South Africa by 3 runs in the first T20. A very, very close match, and I think a very frustrating match for South African fans because I think they'll argue that there were certain moments in the game which would have meant they could have actually really won that game. And I think looking back at it, had a lot of opportunities to try and finish the game or at least do small things better, just get the basics right. And if they had managed to do that, could have won a game, which, considering the fact that it is largely a second-string South African side, would have been a massive occasion because, Pakistan had a very good side out yesterday. And, South Africa missing a lot of players, the likes of Quinton de Kock, no Rabada, no Nortje, no Faf du Plessis, no George Lindy, no Rasifon Adushin. There were so many players missing, and yet South Africa still put in a really, really good effort, And I think that if we look at the game, the difference between Pakistan and South Africa was Muhammed Rizwan, really. To score 104 of 64 deliveries at a strike rate of 162, that is the definition of a match-winning innings. Because apart from that, there was no other contribution from the Pakistan batsmen. It was a 21 from Haider Ali, it was a 12 from Khushdul Shah, and a 15 from Hassan Talat. And that was literally it. Apart from that, it was two fours and a 3, and there was 6 extras. So it was literally one player who took the game away. On the other hand, you look at South Africa, and I think there were two big contributions, but I do think that if you look at the batting, there are some big red flags, particularly in the likes of some of the experienced players like Dave Miller, Hannah Klaasen, and you've got to look at Reza Hendricks as well. But before we look at that, we look at the first innings, where I think South Africa started really well. I mean, on the second delivery of the game, to have run out Babar Azam for 0, this is a man who averages 50 in T20 cricket. So, he's the danger man of the entire series. And Bjorn Verteen, with a brilliant piece of fielding, ran him out. And apart from that, South Africa did quite well at taking wickets at regular intervals. And there were some very tidy bowling performances. I mean, but you do got to wonder why somebody like Dwayne Pretorius, who had the second lowest economy in the match, only bowled 2 overs. I just think that when South Africa had so many options, I think we probably should have bowled Dwayne Pretorius one more. I think Lucas Pan was a little bit expensive. Jacques Name, I don't even know why he did bowled 1 over for 12 runs. He really is a part-timer. Didn't come with the bat, and I wouldn't be surprised if you actually see a bit of a change there, because I don't think that really worked out very well. But for me, a player whose T20 career must almost be coming to an end is Junior Dalla. He bowled 2 overs, 0 for 25 runs, an economy of 12.5. When you've got Glenton Stearman and Nandre Berger, who's sitting in the sort of periphery waiting to come in, you sort of wonder how many more chances will Junior Dalla get. His economy in T20 cricket is above 9. And that's just an expensive bowler, to be honest. You look at his T20 internationals, he's played 10 matches, he's got an economy of 9.59, and he's taken 13 wickets. So he's not a massive wicket threat. But he's very expensive, and I think that being, 31 years old, what is the point? Why are we sticking with someone who really hasn't quite made the step up just yet in international cricket, and is 31 years old? It's not like you're talking about a player for the future. I'm far more rather stick with the Lucas Pamela, who's 22 years old. He's got 10 years of cricket ahead of him, than a 31-year-old Junior Dalla. And look, I think big performances. I thought that Dwayne Pretorius bowled very well. Going for just 13 runs across his 2 overs. Tabraiz Shamsi was brilliant. 4 overs, 1 for 5. A bit of a lucky wicket, but bowled very well. They should have a lot of respect where they didn't go after him because they understood how much of a wicket threat he was. And he showed you just how important it is to have that sort of that leg spin. I thought Bjorn Verteen was fairly solid. Bowled 3 overs, 1 for 25, an economy of 8.3. And Andile Petla 4 overs, 2 for 33. Also, somebody that always picks up wickets, become a very valuable bowler for South Africa. But I think there were 2 moments, and I think you look at overall the South African field was a much improved performance. But Jacques Neyman's first contribution was a fielding mishap where he kind of pushed the ball towards the boundary, and then we had 2 drop catches towards the end of the game. Jacques Neyman dropped 1, and Junior Dalla dropped 1, and then trying to make up for this drop, kind of like push the ball into the boundary. And you look at those 2 moments, and across those 3 moments we conceded 8 runs, I think 9 runs actually, because of them. And we dropped Rizwan twice, and I think if you're taking those catches and reduce the deficit by sort of 4 or 5 runs, and you win the game. This is what we're talking about, small moments in the game where you can win. And I think those 2 drop catches and those 2 fielding mishaps are two major moments where I think that we lost the game. And I also think that Junior Dyer, I mean, you can't go over 25 runs in 2 overs. You know, it makes it so difficult. We have built up so much pressure, and then we had those overs which went for like 20 runs, and that was it. That was the pressure gone. But if you look at South Africa's batting, off to a fantastic start. Muhammed Rizwan blasted a 44 of 29, a strike rate of 151. It was exactly what we needed. When he went out, we were 53 for 1 in 6.5 overs. You know, the run rate was up. We were looking good. It was a very nice, solid start. Jacques Snyman looked clueless against leg spin. He faced 6 deliveries. He didn't pick a single one. He made 2 runs, a strike rate of 33. And he really did not look comfortable at all against the spin. Dave Miller came in, also didn't look particularly comfortable. Just 6 or 10, a strike rate of 60, also not really good enough. But I want to talk about Reza Hendricks, who scored 54 of 42, a strike rate of 128. And I think that you look at there and you'll think it's a reasonable effort, you know, you needed more support. But I think that for somebody who opened the batting, he only went out in the 18th over. First of all, the way he went out was absolutely ridiculous. To be run out in that situation, I mean, to mishear the ball, see it, think about a single, and then get run out is unforgivable. But I also think to have been there for 18 overs and to have left us in the position that he did with us needing, 13, 14 runs and over is just poor game management. He left it too. I mean, at one stage, I think he was sitting on 30 of 28 balls. That is not good enough. You cannot sit there and eat up that many deliveries. He faced, I think it was 11 dot balls. You can't have 11 dot balls in your innings. You cannot. If those 11 dot balls are singles and he's ending up on 64 or 42, that's a much better innings. That can be a match-winning innings. But I think that in the scheme of things, I think he took too long before he tried to be aggressive and tried to kick on. And he threw his work away very irresponsibly. So it's difficult to criticize the player who scored the most runs. But I think that by virtue of him taking those 11 dot balls, playing himself in, taking that time, he had to do it at the end. And he didn't do it at the end. And he left way too much to do for our middle order. Yes, Sharks Name needs to be it. Yes, I think Dave Miller's under a lot of pressure because that was not good enough for him. Hunter Klaasen, 12 of 10, strike rate of 120, But also, by the time Klaasen came in, he had to go for it. And I also want to talk about the fact that Anita Petlicoir walked in ahead of Dwayne Pretorius, which I really don't agree with. And I thought Petlicoir played pretty well. I mean, he ended up on 14 of 8, having to go for it because we had left so much towards the back end. But I don't understand when you've got somebody like Dwayne Pretorius who averages, I think it's 3 times the amount of runs in international T20 cricket than Petlicoir does, and a strike rate significantly better, why we would send Petlicoir in before Dwayne Pretorius. I just don't understand the logic. And that's nothing against Petlicoir, but you've got someone who has scored T20 international 50s, who's got a very good strike rate. I mean, you saw the way he hits the ball. I mean, 15 or 6, a strike rate of 250. Pretorius is somebody that can clear the boundary. He's a power hitter. And that's what we needed in that situation. So I think that as the coaching staff, I'm very surprised. I cannot understand the decision to send in Petlicoir before Dwayne Pretorius. That was a big thing for me, which just sort of begged belief. And Petlicoir played well, and I think that Petlicoir, look, I'm always a bit hesitant about the all-rounder tag. I think he's more of a sort of bowler who can bat a bit, but for me, you had to be sending in Dwayne Pretorius ahead of him. And then, look, I mean, Bjorn Vertain, you've also got to feel sorry for him, walking in and having to do that. But as I said, all that came down to pretty poor game management by Reza Hendricks, who kind of was happy to rotate on the other end, So, yeah, I was just frustrated because I think it was a game that South Africa should have won. And that's what the disappointment is that we've got the ability to win the games. We've got the talent. You can see there. And it would have been a huge statement to go and with the second string side, go and beat Pakistan. But I think the game management needs to be a lot better. And we need players to play in innings like Rizwan. When you're making 104, 162 strike rate, that is what T20 cricket's all about. He hit 7 sixes and 6 fours. I think, and you look at South Africa, and we had 3 sixes across the entire innings. One from Muhammed Rizwan, one from Anita Petlicoir, one from Dwayne Pretorius. It's a boundaries game. The game is all about boundaries. And we didn't hit enough of them yesterday. I think that was also a big sort of wake-up call, the fact that we need to be able to clear the boundary more effectively. And that's why I'd like to see Dwayne Pretorius. He is somebody who can clear the boundary. He has played some very destructive innings in the side. But let me know what you thought of the game down in the notes. Please smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. Remember, we will be giving away a PROTEAS shirt when we reach 1,000 subscribers. So make sure you join the calls. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.